Hello everyone, I hope you're doing great and no. Let me say that line. I hope you're doing fine in quarantine. But since I'm not, so I will do what I have decided. And today I decided to talk about something very useless that is in a very important position because of its historical influence. And because it is at a very important position and causes a lot of problems when it doesn't work. It already doesn't work in any condition, but if it works in weird ways, it causes a lot of problems. Now, you may think that I'm talking about our beloved Chief Minister here, but that is not the case. Why would we talk about him? Instead, we're going to talk about a very cute little viscera that we call appendix. What is an appendix? Appendix is a vestigial organ. Vestigial means that it was important to our ancestors back in the evolution, but it is not as important to us. Appendix is also called vermiform appendix. It is called so because it resembles a worm in appearance. Now, where is this vermiform appendix located? If you're a surgeon and if you're going to cut open a person and the thing you're going to see first is either the cecum or the ileum, there's a prominent, how are you going to locate an appendix? You can locate an appendix by locating the ileocecal junction because it is located infralateral to that junction, and it is said that it is located about 3 centimeter infralateral to that junction. So, if we're talking about the dimensions here, let's talk about the dimension of the appendix itself. The lumen of the appendix is about 5 centimeter instead, and the length of appendix, it's from 5 to 15 centimeter, and some books write that 7.5 is the average length of an appendix. Since we were talking about cutting open a person, now let's suppose you're a surgeon and you've cut open a person and you've even located the ileocecal junction. That's over here, but you still cannot locate the appendix. What do? You do something else. You locate a line called tinea coli. Let's understand this concept by drawing cecum itself. This is your cecum. And if you will view it very carefully, you'll see that there are some lines of longitudinal muscles on its external surface, and these are called tinea coli. This is the anterior tinea coli, and 2 of them are on the posterior side. If you will locate the anterior tinea coli, from there you will be able to locate the base of the appendix, because the point where this anterior tinea coli merges with the posterior ones is also the point from where the appendix arises. You can remember it by remembering the Mercedes sign. Now let's get back to our organ. Whenever we're discussing a viscera, it's always very important to discuss the supply of the viscera. So, how does this organ get its blood supply? We all know that there is a superior mesenteric artery that supplies the GIT. From that superior mesenteric artery arises an artery that is known as ileocecal artery. As you can see, it supplies the cecum and the ileum, and from that ileocecal artery arises the appendicular artery. Appendicular artery runs into the mesoappendix until it enters the appendix. So, here we can see the appendicular artery that arises from the ileocecal artery. The venous supply of the appendix is, of course, from the appendicular veins, and these veins drain in the posterior cecal vein. The lymphatic supply of appendix is something that drains into the ileocecal lymph nodes. Now, getting done with that, let's discuss the abnormal. There are some abnormal positions of the appendix. There are at least some say 6 and some go to the extent of 7 abnormal position of the appendix, but in that cases the cecum is at its normal position. But there are some cases in which the appendix is at an abnormal position because the cecum itself is at an abnormal position. For example, here you can see that the appendix and the cecum itself is malrotated. This is your appendix and it is on the left side. Another situation arises. Let's draw the liver first. This is liver, this is your gallbladder, and this is your large intestine. This is the cecum itself. Now you see that the cecum has been rotated back in development to its original position here. So you will see that the appendix is located very close to your gallbladder. And situations like these are a problem because if a patient presents to you with appendicitis but the pain is at an abnormal position because the appendix is at an abnormal position, you will have a lot of difficulty in diagnosing that patient. Now, the thing that matters the most when we're talking about appendix is the inflammation of the appendix or infection of the appendix, anything that you call appendicitis. Appendicitis itself is a process that leads from inflammation to the infection. That is very important to remember because there are some factors that cause the inflammation and that inflammation leads to the infection. Now let's see how it happens. In a diagram here, you can see if this is considered the lumen of the appendix. And if you'll see very closely, you can see there are tiny specks here. These specks are actually fecolate. Now, if you have fecolate in your appendix, it is going to cause obstruction of the lumen. It can also be visualized on a radiogram. Here, for example, you can see that this is your cecum and appendix attached to it, and it is opaque. That shows that it has fecolate in it. Another diagram to demonstrate it is this barium swallow here. As you can see, this is the appendix and your cecum here obstructed with excess of barium swallow and barium in this appendix that is obstructed due to the fecolate. So we see the one factor that we have isolated that causes the lumen obstruction is what? Presence of fecolate. There are other factors too. For example, you can also have lymphoid hyperplasia. Lymphoid follicles are present in the submucosa of the appendicular wall, and if one of it undergoes enlargement, for example, you can see a ridiculous enlargement here, it can cause obstruction too. So let's name it. Lymphoid hyperplasia is the second cause. A third cause can be a parasite. For that, let's draw a cute little parasite here. This parasite is going to cause infestation, inflammation, alternatingly leading to appendicitis. So we have a parasite here too. A third cause is a renal calculi. Oh my god, I made a terrible mistake. Sorry, a calculi. What is a renal calculi going to do here? So we have a calculi here. Calculi, accumulation of some salts that is going to cause irritation and consequently inflammation. Now comes something that oversmarts everything that you know, and that is a mighty carcinoma in the appendicular wall to cause the pattern of inflammation and infection. So, here are the 4 causes that cause inflammation of the appendix that leads to infection. I'm repeating it again and again because it essentially explains the mechanism That is very important, and we're going to see it over here by understanding the structure of the appendix. So, this is the mucosa, and let's suppose that it is inflamed. And it has also inflamed the submucosa here. And this inflammation has caused lymphoid hyperplasia. You can understand it if I draw mucosa, submucosa, and the lymphoid follicles here. Now let's suppose that inflammation has already occurred. This inflammation is going to cause mucosal, of course, mucosal enlargement, mucosal inflammation, and lymphoid hyperplasia. Now, when this ridiculous hyperplasia that is happening here pushes the mucosal wall, and it happens on the other side too, it causes obstruction of the appendicular lumen. But since your mucosa is already inflamed, it is going to produce what? It's going to produce a lot of mucus, and that mucus is going to cause pressure on the appendicular walls. Now, in the appendicular walls, we have something very important, and that is the appendicular vessels, the appendicular artery, that if obstructed will cause what? Gangrene. And then we have the appendicular vein that if obstructed will cause what? Edema. So, let's suppose that it pressed the appendicular walls, edema and gangrene happened, and a combination of the edema and gangrene caused ischemia of the wall, and perforation of the muscularis muscle here occurred. Now, when this perforation occurs, certain nasty small stuff, certain nasty small organisms enter here into the appendicular wall. And what are these? These are either bacteria or viruses. When they enter into the appendicular wall, they cause appendicitis. Now, what is the fate of appendicitis? It can have three fates depending upon the intervention or the treatment. If it is in the initial phases, you will see a gangrenous appendix. Now, if the inflammation goes out of it, and it also involves the mesoappendix, you're going to see an abscess will be formed that is going to enclose the folds of the mesoappendix and also the appendix itself. And if this infection spreads further to peritoneum, it is going to cause peritonitis. So essentially, there are three fates that await an appendix. For example, there can be gangrene. Alternatively, you can see an abscess. If the gangrene is not treated at time or if the treatment is not working, or in very extreme cases, in fact, it's a fate that is very feared. You can see peritonitis, and that is how your appendicitis goes all wrong. So today, this video was all about the structure and the mechanism of appendicitis. Hope you understood it, and hope you understood it that it was not a political satire at all. Long live everybody. Bye bye.